Okay, I'm throwing this out into the world because I want to see who remembers this very specific phenomenon. You're very likely familiar with the 1969 Christmas special Frosty the Snowman. It's a classic, it plays on TV every Christmas, and specifically here in the US, it played on CBS every single Christmas for most of my life. I think that has changed as recently as last year, but for most of my life, it played on CBS. This is important because Rankin Bass had a sequel to Frosty, Frosty's Winter Wonderland. It came out in the 70s. There was also a Rudolph's Frosty crossover, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. That one's a little more obscure. But it didn't matter because neither of them ever got airplay. Instead, every single year after Frosty the Snowman, they played Frosty Returns, a special with a completely different animation style that does not reference the first movie at all, has nothing to do with the original Frosty. This was made in the 90s, over 25 years after the original Frosty was made, by a completely different animation studio under the direction of CBS. So the reason we saw this one every year is because CBS owned it, but not Winter Wonderland. They didn't want to pay the royalties on Winter Wonderland. And to make things even weirder, Cartoon Network released their Frosty sequel, which did use the original art style and did follow up on the original story of Frosty the Snowman, even though Frosty the Snowman never played on Cartoon Network. Like, maybe it did once when I wasn't looking, but I don't remember it ever being on Cartoon Network. It played CBS. So there are 3 Frosty sequels, and the one that always played directly after the original Frosty is the one that had nothing to do with the original. And it's not even like I dislike Frosty Returns. I might have liked that one more as a kid, but even as a child I was like, why are you telling me this is a Frosty sequel? This is clearly not a Frosty sequel. I just watched Frosty. You can't fool me. This is not a Frosty sequel. Anyway, which Frosty sequel did you grow up with?